Hello, welcome to Hidden Existence. So everybody's doing all right out there tonight. Jason's got a big smile on his face because we've just been
It's a,
talking about something really horrible. Before we started, we were talking about. He asked me how my week was, and I said I've been busy actually this week. Been doing a lot of stuff at home and catching up with stuff. And I bought this air. What do you call them, Jason? I don't even know what it's called.
well, it's not really an airbrush because I mean airbrushes are like smaller. It's like it's I don't know. It's a paint. It's a paint sprayer. Paint sprayer. That's what I would call it. Yeah, yeah.
Paint sprayer. So I've been doing my fencing, painting everything. And you were saying, people watch stuff like that, don't they? They love
Yeah.
on YouTube. These videos are fascinating. And I was
Well,
saying,
like power washers. Yeah, like power washers. Yeah. There's entire YouTube channels dedicated to people using it, but I don't understand that. Like and again, maybe it's because I don't have a power washer. Don't get me wrong. I think power washers are fun, but the thought of watching someone use a power sprayer on YouTube, unless it's some sort of tutorial, makes zero sense to me.
It's the processing the dirt coming off to the clean. It's the satisfaction of watching that.
So now this is where I will agree with you, and I understand because I have a strange affinity for strange videos like that fall into this category, which is those pimple popping videos. Like now, again, I don't seek them out necessarily. Like I'm busy with my other stuff. I like to listen to podcasts and stuff. But when one pops up, you're like,
no,
well, just this one.
Oh,
and then the next thing you know, it's like someone's removing a cyst, and you're like, well, I would like to know how that happens. Yeah, I guess it's just the idea of, again, for people who just, love these power washing channels, which I don't get, but it's like the idea of something being dirty and made clean. It's like it's watching infection be removed and someone's being cleaned or purified. I think that's got to be the same sensation, the same thought.
Not those. Thank you. They're nasty.
Oh, they are, but that's also part of the fascination.
I can't.
It's like watching a train wreck. You can't look away.
I can look away. I can just turn it off and just not look at it. It's like in the horror movies when you get the cushion. Someone mentioned, sorry, I've missed you, but lawn care. Watching gardeners do the thing on a whole garden lawn thing and on speed, on a speed.
Oh yeah.
Just the progression of definitely look away when you see stuff like that. I can't ingrown toenails and
I can't do that. But like the ones where it's like here's this giant cyst and they're removing like that stuff. I find again endlessly fascinating. Not enjoyable, but endlessly fascinating.
Yeah, those worse when they've got like an animal in there.
Oh, I can't do that. Like the botflies and stuff like that. No.
There's a limit. There's a limit.
That is my limit. Yeah. No. No. Parasite. I have zero interest in parasites. That's horrible.
I can't watch that.
Yeah. Nah.
Now, something happened today. Something popped up in my, on Facebook.
Something popped up. Yeah.
No. I just can't even help myself.
No, you can't. Nor should you. Should you, madam.
No, exactly. Something came up in my timeline, memories thing, and it was an accident that I had. And what I want to talk about is the power of the mind, of how can cosmic ordering, whatever you want to call it, can you create something? Make something happen. Have you ever made something happen with the power of thought in one maybe indirectly or directly? Have you? Can you think of anything?
Yes, actually, I have several. In fact, I was there at the time, but it wasn't the most dramatic. But things like this, I believe, is absolutely possible. The most dramatic event. My friend, it freaks him out to this day, but we were carpooling home, right? And we were just stuck in traffic because that's what you do when you're working in around downtown Dallas. You get stuck in traffic. And I just made this joke. I'm like, why don't you just part the traffic like Moses? He goes, okay. And I swear to you, on every Bible in this room, this is what happened. He went, and even it freaked even him out. Our lane, every car got into another lane.
Wow.
And we just drove. Even like we didn't say anything to each other the rest of the drive. Like it was just we just drove. Like it was like everyone got out of the lane and we just moved, and then to the point where the traffic was done, and we were just we didn't say anything to each other the entire drive home. When we got to the point where I was going to get my car, we just stopped and looked at each, like we just didn't even look at each other. We just looked ahead, and then finally we still like we hate talking about it because we're like it freaks us out so much. Him particularly is like, what happened? What just happened there? I'm like, this is the one time when you could control the universe and you wasted it on traffic. You're supposed to get the winning lottery ticket. You're supposed to be like, winning lottery ticket. And then we become billionaires. Like, that's how that's supposed to work. And you wasted it on traffic. But, like, so the theory or the question, back to your point, is it possible for our thoughts, our perceptions to affect the universe? Not just our perception of the universe, where it's like positive thinking, okay, I'm not going to just get in you overcome something. Yeah, that's true. But you mean actually having a physical effect on the universe around us? Absolutely, I do. Absolutely.
Well, as Judy Wheeler says, oh yes, you can put a thought out in the universe and it'll send back. It'll send the vibration. Okay, so something happened to me. And I think this is what happened. I'm not sure. There's a bit of a story to it. But this happened quite a few years ago, about 7, 8 years ago. And maybe a bit less, actually. But I was doing care work. I was working for an elderly couple. And I'd worked for them for quite a bit on and off. And it's quite hard work because they both needed a lot of care.
Right.
You know, great couple, don't get me wrong, fantastic couple.
But they needed help.
But they needed help. And it's hard work, you know. And they wanted me to, they were going on holiday and they had a care worker going with them and they had to cancel. And they kind of talked me into going with them away for a week. And I didn't really realize just how much work was going to be involved until getting towards this holidays getting closer and closer. And I talked to like another carer about it, and they told me that the bed was really low at the place that they stay, which was going to be a problem because
the
lady has to be hoisted up and out, down. And they wanted me from like, it was just me on my own with 2 of them. They wanted me from like first thing in the morning to last thing at night. And I just knew that this really, you need 2 people. And I was, you know, I just couldn't say no to him. But inside I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't, you know, but I can't say no, but I can't go and do this. Honestly, this will just, you know, and you just feel like, and I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I can't think of any reason to get out of it. There's just no way I'm going to get out of it. And so I'm still thinking about it, but, you know, it's just this thing. Anyway, so about a week before we're going away, I'm making dinner for them and I'm making a rhubarb crumble. So they grow a lot of rhubarb there. And so I used to cook with it every night, making different desserts with it. And this particular one.
Really? I'm going to say, so here's the thing. I've never had rhubarb.
Oh, it's great. You need quite a lot of sugar.
Yeah, my dad loved them. My dad loved it, but I've never had rhubarb.
Oh, yeah. You should definitely try it. It's very interesting. Stew it down with some sugar or some honey or something like that. And you can use it for whatever you want. But, you know, like a crumble topping is just like butter and flour. And you just crumble it together and you make that crumble, don't you? But for this one, I wanted to do it a little bit different. I wanted to put honey in the crumble. And so it got really, really sticky. And I decided to use one of these, you know, these hand blenders. And don't ask me why, but I ended up using that end rather than like the whisk end. And because this crumble was getting really, really sticky, it kept getting clogged up, you know, in here. And I kept unclogging it like with my finger. And I did it 3 times. And on the 3rd time, I pressed the button at the same time. And my finger, I heard this like, doo, 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 which is probably like the blade hitting my bone.
Mm.
And I just dropped this thing. And
Oh, that hurts. Oh, that hurts.
I've got some
Just
pictures. If
hearing it.
anyone's squeamish, don't look. But this was like at the time.
Oh God.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't look too bad there, I don't think. But you can see. Sorry, everyone, if everyone's, you know. And by the time I got to the hospital, everybody look away. But you know, this was kind of like the situation that my finger was in. And I ended up with like the biggest bandage you could ever imagine for like an injury on the tip of my finger.
Oh, yeah.
But,
I hate, like, I feel that in my toes. Like, that's, you know.
Yeah. But what happened is I couldn't go on holiday. I was signed off sick, and this cured the problem in one way for this holiday. And I felt like I was wanting it so much. It happened to me for the right reasons, but in the wrong way. I mean, I don't know. It's punishment for not wanting to go on this work thing, but I mean, I wanted it to do, although I didn't want this. Exactly. Thanks, universe.
Yeah. Be careful what you wish for, Daniela.
Exactly. I mean,
be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. But so here's the thing. I know what you're talking about. That's happened to me too, where it's like, I had a car. No, was it a car? Yeah, it was. I was like, man, you know what I really wish? I wish I'd get into a car wreck where no one was hurt. No, you know, it wasn't my fault. It was somebody else's fault, and I could just get a new car. Like I was just having trouble with the car. I was like, I just wish I could do that. And literally that event happened. I get rear-ended so bad they have to total the car. Oops. And I was like, what just happened? Like, it was one of those things where I'm like, again, wasted. I'm like, what? The lottery ticket here, God. The lottery ticket is what it's like. You chose the car and not the lottery ticket. But I know what you're talking about. I think we've all done something like this where it's like, you don't want to go somewhere, you don't want to do something. You're like, man, I wish something bad would happen, or something would occur. But then that something ends up impeding that. I think it's absolutely, I think this is absolutely true. I think the universe, I think the universe is affected by our thoughts, our beliefs, our perceptions. I think the universe is run off of will, and to a certain degree. But I also think that perhaps, some of these things are just subconsciously we sabotage ourselves, right?
Yes, definitely. It was like, I mean, I don't know what, why, how. Phil says my wife did the same, but just a nick a bit, just nick a bit, nothing like that. I have. It's still numb now. It's still numb.
Oh yeah, I mean
the nerve.
I would imagine. It's probably severed. It had to have severed a nerve.
I can't play the piano anymore.
Could you play the piano before?
No. I think so. But I used to play. I do play guitar, and I've only just kind of got back into doing that, playing it again. But for a long time, I couldn't put this finger on anything. There's a lot of psychological stuff going on with it. It never actually hurt at the time.
Well, it's shock. Yeah.
Didn't feel anything. Got to the hospital. They had a look at it, and they didn't actually want to do anything with it. They wanted me to go to another hospital about 30 miles away on the Tuesday. This was a Sunday night, and they said to go on Tuesday. I know this sounds weird. So, this has been setting for a couple of days now in that weird form that you saw it in. And so when I went to the...
Whoa. Let me just get this straight. You basically cut your finger to the bone. It's literally just hanging on by tendon and goodwill here. So you go to the emergency room, and the emergency room flushes it, wraps it, and they're like, "Come, you would."
Not even. No. So this happened about 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night. By the time I got to hospital, because I was cooking them their dinner, I had to carry on. So I just wrapped a big thing around it, and I had to carry. I couldn't leave them in the lurch with no dinner, so I had to do as much as I could for them before I went to the hospital. And so I got there and I needed a plastic surgeon basically because of the damage. They had to take my nail off. That was what they wanted to do. Take the nail off, and then it would need plastic surgery on it, which would be better at this other hospital, but that would be on Tuesday. So I just agreed to that. So they wrapped it up, in the big clown bandage. And so by the time I got to the other hospital 2 days later, this had kind of formed in a weird way, because it was, you could see the state of it. So it was all like knobbly and there. And so I was
seriously, my toes, like I'm feeling this in my toes. I hate that. Yeah.
And I was absolutely fine until I was in theatre, and he injected my arm with the painkiller, and I didn't turn my head until he was pulling apart the fingertip. And then I got the thing through the stomach, like, oh God. And then it was all like, oh no, oh heck, what have I done? And so I couldn't look after that. Anyway, they stitched it up and did their stuff. And I was just walking around with this finger out all the time, even after it was like healed. I was just this finger out all the time, so I didn't touch anything. It was so weird. It's just that weird sensation on the end of it.
Oh wow, that's
yeah, and unfortunately.
Okay, so hold on. You're telling this whole story. We're all cringing in pain and like the ooginess of, and you're chastising me for my fascination with the pimple popping videos.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not bringing the pimple popping videos and showing everybody. You're all like, look at my finger that was nearly cut off, and here it is, and it's bleeding everywhere. Like, this is honestly like, and I know it's like it's something to do with the degree of the severity, but it's like the idea of the fingertips just freaks me out. I had to do, when I worked for FedEx office, I had to replicate one of the evidence packages. And it was a guy whose arm had gotten chewed up in the meat grinder at the factory that he worked at. And so it fell on me because I was the manager. So for that shift, so I had to do it, and everyone's like, glad it's not you. Like, that bothered me less than this story right now. Seeing the dude's arm turn into hamburger is disturbing me less than this story right here.
Yeah. You can't get much out of a finger, but a hamburger. You're going to get quite a bit of meat out of an arm, aren't you? I mean, it's just gross. It is gross, though. I just have to say, on Squash Australia, that is lucky. You are one of the lucky ones, apparently, when you get a little gift from a bird on your head.
Is that what it's supposed to be?
So if anyone has had the same kind of like situation happen where you've wished you didn't want to do something and you needed an excuse to get out of it, I always thought, I'll just break my arm, just fall over, break my leg. I couldn't do that. I mean, I can't even, speak about that.
Hold on, Phil, what do you think it did to me? He's like, thank you, you ruined burgers for me. What do you think seeing that did to me, dude? It took. Don't worry, you'll get over it. Trust me, you'll get over it. Just saying. But I'm over here. It's Daniela I'm mad at, because she's over here like, here's my novel. By the way, how does the finger look now?
There's still a bit of, like, you can see.
Oh yeah, you can see the scar and all that.
Yeah, but it's like I say, it's still a little bit numb. It'll never come back now. That feeling. I've tried to play guitar again. It just feels weird, but I'll probably get used to that. But I just couldn't go on holiday with work, so that was a bummer. Not really, but I just felt like I'd made that happen, but in the wrong way.
Well, so here's the deal. You made it happen. Well, you may have made it happen, and just the problem is that it's not the way you wanted it to happen.
No.
That's the difference. And so the problem, and that's the danger with this, is again, that's why this is one of those old, sayings, like, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. Like, this is what you're talking about is the epitome of this. This is what, but this goes all the way back to the beginning of time. People have had these thoughts and these desires, and the universe has responded, right? Where it's like, okay. And the problem is, it never works out the way we want it to work out.
Exactly. But here is a tip for everyone. Listen, if you ever have to unclog one of these things, unplug it. Just unplug it from the wall. I mean,
Moral of the
what I was
story.
doing. I've done it 3 times. Like unclogged it, put the finger in, swirled it round, cleaned it out, and just for some reason, that last time, zoom. Like,
Yep.
oh
Yeah.
heck.
So here's the deal. We call that a cobbler in America, or at least in the South. Yeah, we call them cobblers. It may even be a Southern thing because I think up north they still call them crumbles.
Right.
Just so you know.
Yeah. I'm glad to know.
Well, there you go.
Texas Jack. That's exactly how my table saw finger feels years
Yes.
after. Table saw.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know many a men who have fallen victim to the table saw. In fact, the reason I don't wear my wedding ring to this day, grew up a mechanic. I knew a ton of mechanics, electricians who were missing their ring finger because they left their ring on. Now, for me, I do a lot of typing, and so it was wearing. But still, I hated wearing my ring because it just all the constant thought in my head was one particular gentleman. Like my dad was just like, he's like, nope. He's like, grease under it. He's like, I know too many people who are missing ring fingers, so but there was this one dude that we knew who was missing his ring finger because his wife had been yelling at him. He's like, why don't you wear the ring? And so he's like, fine, I'll wear the wedding ring. He puts it back on, goes back out to work on the car. He's holding the screwdriver in his left hand, and he's trying to get some position on the car battery. Makes contact with both poles. It melts the gold onto his finger. Dude walked in and said, "This with the ring melted onto his." Like, this is why I don't wear wedding rings, or my wedding ring while I work. He had to have it amputated because it just done too much damage. So tables, guys, everyone, safety first. If it's a power tool, unplug it. If you have to do something, just do that. Just take the time. Just unplug it. You never know. There's no reason to lose your finger, have it mangled because you're trying to make an apple crumble.
Oh yeah, that as well.
Yeah, or like there's no reason to trim off the tip of your fingers because you're peeling a potato. Just be safe. Just be safe.
I almost bought a circular saw today. So one at Aldi, on offer at Aldi, like for 50 quid. I thought that's a good buy.
I love Aldi. I love my Aldis.
Yeah. Well, I just thought I actually put it in the basket, and I was just wheeling it around, going, "Should I get this? Should I get this?"
Okay, I swear to you, I'm not kidding. We have a, I guess it's technically a tent. It's sort of like it's made of metal rods and has a little curtain thing on it for the backyard. That it's sort of like a pergola, but it's not. It's not made of wood. I guess it's like a tent, but it's designed to just sort of sit there, right, and be pretty. Like we've got that from Aldi. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
Sitting in the backyard.
So much from Aldi.
Yeah.
But I'm just sticking to the handsaw. I mean, what damage? Well, a bit, but not as much as a circular saw. If anything happened. Yeah.
Well, circular saws, I mean, so here's the thing. A circular saw, though, I don't know. I mean, that's to a point I've always thought of them as safer because, there's more to handle. Whereas a table saw, your hands are involved in moving it towards the blade, whereas your hands are sort of away from the blade on a good circular saw.
Yeah. It depends where your other hand is and if it's holding the piece that you want to cut.
Well, but you can move it. You can keep your hand over here, right? And just be like, zzz,
Things happen.
I'm just saying, I look, things happen. Every tool out there has hurt somebody somehow, some way. I understand. I was a mechanic. I've hurt myself a dozen times on tools. You're like, how'd you hurt yourself on that? I don't know. It just happens sometimes. But just saying.
I had some petrol hedge trimmers, and I had this top on which had like lace, like a shoelace going through it, if you will. Not a shoelace, but
yeah. I know what you're talking about.
and it got sucked in to the back of the hedge trimmer once. And it almost pulled my top off. It pulled the whole lace right through the top, through the holes, right in. Anyway, it's still in there. I've just bought a electric one. It's just too much hassle.
Yeah.
Rolls, shouldn't I? Maybe.
And Danielle's just over their hedge trimming naked now. She's like, well, I mean, I'm already out here. I'm trimming. I might as well finish up. Neighbors are just looking. It's like, did your top get pulled off by your hedge trimmers again? Yeah. All right. Looking good, though. I like the trimming.
Exactly. I'm not very... I mean, I love tools like that. I mean, I borrowed my neighbour's hedge trimmers once, and I cut through the cable.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, oh, no, and he's an electrician as well.
Yep.
Luckily, it was towards the end of the plug end, so I just made it shorter and hoped he didn't notice. It was probably quite a few feet off the... I know, but I thought he'd go mad, but tried to fix it. It's better, not having any power, I think, for me. Just au natural. Go out there with the scissors around the hedge. It's a good job I've got fencing now. Yeah. Have
you thought about power tools and me don't get along?
They don't. They don't.
It's like I've never had these clippers take off my shirt. Wait, what? Never mind. Just trim my hedges.
So lots of people are mentioning accidents with saws in June, but 4 years ago, still in the box. Well, that's a shame.
Yeah.
But
think of all the things you could saw with that circular saw.
I could do loads with it. What I'm trying to do at the moment, I could do loads with it, but I'm not going to get one. I think just save myself 50 quid, just do it with the handsaw. It's all doable, but it's just a bit of extra work, but that's all right. I'd rather, do that than take my fingers off or whatever.
Yeah, fair enough.
Rescue Mom Homestead. My grandpa worked on the railroad and got dragged by the train when his wedding finger got caught. No more rings. That is, can't even think about that. That is dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Naked gardening, yeah. We'll all do it, shall we? Don't take pictures. Don't send in the pictures unless, you want to. We could show them, couldn't we, Jason?
Nope.
We can't?
No.
Okay.
And I have nothing but very inappropriate jokes right now. So let us move on.
Move on. Go on, you better bring something new, fresh to the discussion then.
I got nothing except for the QT's changed like their extra large cups. I don't know if it's because they can't get their original cups, but like they've changed it and now it doesn't fit in your.
How much is in there? Like a gallon or something? It's big. Well, it's big.
I don't know. It just says extra large. I don't know how much it actually is. It's large though. Like I kind of like it. Like I feel like I'm getting more, but I think it doesn't sit in the cup holder anymore, and it makes me sad.
Oh, that's upsetting. That
it is.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm just trying to. I thought I saw something, but how is your new site doing? You've got your.
Oh yeah. No, everything's up. In fact, I'm adding. So I got on. What's it called? Telegram, and so I'm trying to post the videos over there as well. And I'm going to add a few things to the site, like the Bible study, and so people can find me there. And then everything's going great. I'm hoping next month to actually start doing real, like right now the video is just me talking, simple enough stuff. Trying to lay sort of a foundation, but I would like to start doing larger videos that are pre-recorded and have illustrations and things like that. Like the last one I did was on how do we get the Bible, right? Because you hear this stuff all the time where it's like, well, the Bible wasn't written until 1611, right? Or it's been translated so many times. How do we even know what it really says? And the problem is it's like people, and I've known very smart people who've thrown those out. And it's like, that's just ignorant, right? Like you can argue that what's the text, that you don't agree with the text, fine. But to say that we don't know what the text originally was is just, it's just ignorant. And I walk through, and what many have said is a very understandable way. Like you can go and listen to very, very long, treatise on how we get from point A to point B. I try to just boil it down to make it simple, but it's like, how did we actually get these things? So that's, like I said, that's the latest one. But I've got stuff like what is the paranormal and the Bible, the UAP report that's on there. But in October, I wanted to be the first one. We're going to talk about unicorns and the Bible, and whether or not unicorns are still around. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds it. I've just put a link to the channel in the description in the chat there. Thank you, Batman. Wow.
Yeah, that's
a big one.
Normally, we gotta start stripping for that.
Yeah, thankfully we don't.
Yeah.
This time.
Not today.
Unless you want to anyway. I mean, I know you like to
always
hang out.
Never do it for free. Never do it for free.
Okay. Is that the?
Yeah. That's the line. Yeah, that's the line.
That's the rule. Never do it for free. Bayo Flats, caught finger in bicycle chain. When showing grandkid how to put slip chain back on and gears. Ouch.
Yeah. I
bet he'll never do that, will he? The grandkid. I bet it's like...
Yep. It's like, no, I don't need a bicycle anymore, Grandpop. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll just stick to my skateboard.
Precisely. So or you can go to SeruPapers.com. That's the main website. You can find my videos. You can find my books, all kinds of stuff.
Let me get the link now.
Yeah. So that's the main website, and everything's going to be out on that. We got some other stuff coming out. In fact, I got a new project. It's going to take me a couple of years to do.
Okay. Well,
eventually, once you don't get me wrong, I'll let y'all know when that's available. But it'll be, I'll have all the links on that. So if you anything to do with me, SeruPapers.com, I am there, easily found.
Okay, and here is the link in the chat there for Seru Papers. I will put that the website. I will put that in the description as well later on. And once again, thank you, Batmom. I love you too.
Yes.
She knows I love her.
Well, we all love you, Daniela.
Do you?
Yes. I mean, I don't love you $50 much, but... No.
Oh, obviously. But you can show me how much you love me if you want with money. I'll take it.
Yes. People show Daniela how much you love her with the gift of money. That is how that works.
Please don't. I don't want people to start giving me money. But I do appreciate when you do. But we're talking about stripping. Why are people talking about stripping? Were we talking about stripping? No.
Well, I mean, we're not talking about stripping.
No, we weren't. What did I want to bring up here?
I don't know.
Louis Corrado. Isn't it observed that we're already judging Bigfoot if he is nice or aggressive? It's not just a he, it could be a she. Like we are not both. But you're right. We don't know, do we? People are just going from their experience and that their perception has to be.
Well, so this goes back to, it's like the idea of the dog breeds that are dog breeds aggressive or not? Most dogs, it's how they're raised, but there are some breeds that are slightly more aggressive, and there do seem to be certain groups that are more aggressive than others. The problem is, again, this goes back to what is my big claim. We don't know what Bigfoot is, which means we don't know what it isn't. We are making the assumption that all of the Bigfoot seen from the Pacific Northwest to the skunk apes of Florida and everywhere in between, and the ones running around, the Yetis, that they're all the same thing. It is entirely possible that we are dealing with multiple phenomena, some natural, some supernatural. And the problem is that we're trying to shove all these different things into one box and call it Bigfoot. It's like, that's not how we would do anything else. Mule deer behave differently from white-tailed deer, which behave differently from moose, right? I mean, they're all deer, but they're different things. So even if just assuming all of the natural Bigfoot from the Pacific Northwest to the smelly skunk apes were all roughly the same thing, but if they were different breeds, they'd have different behaviors. So we don't really know. That's the problem.
And we don't know also the rest of the story, as in, what is it protecting something? Does it have young with it, like any other animal would react?
Yeah,
going to protect.
Yeah, absolutely.
When my dog's scared, she shows her teeth. It's good she's scared, but to other people, it looks like she's ready to rip the fingers off. Even worse than that hand blender that I used.
It's like I saw a video of a bear just walking up and sitting next to a dude. The bear doesn't care. It's not hungry. It's not feeling threatened. It's just hanging out with the guy. And in the wild, he didn't do anything. Please, people, do not walk up to a bear in the wild.
No.
It's like you have these nut jobs like, I'm one with the bears. The bear ends up eating them. Well, what did you expect to happen? They're hungry. You're made out of meat. But it's like, you have those pictures of the photographers, the nature photographers. They're out there. And like some cheetah just walks up and hangs out with them for a little bit, just checking them out. It's like any animal can be aggressive or passive. It depends on the situation. It depends on what you're doing. It depends on how they're feeling at the time. So to say whether or not Bigfoot is aggressive or anything, the claim that they are aggressive is just as insane as the claim that they are the forest brethren, right? Where they're just happy and they're in the ecosystem and they're the forest protectors. None of that is legitimate. That's all us putting something on these creatures. And which is fundamentally the problem, because we have no objective observations of these animals or these creatures or these people. Again, we don't know they're not people. No. They're like, why do you call us Bigfoot? We call ourselves the Stan. I don't know. I mean, how do we know? So
we don't, do we? But it's just common sense, isn't it? That things are going to react differently.
Yeah.
And that you're not maybe reading it. We don't read things right anyway, a lot of the time. People, unless you're a dog person, you might not understand how to read a dog, unless you've had one. Or with cats, or I guess with any animal, it's reading that animal. And because we can't study them enough, we haven't got a clue.
No, we don't. Again, we don't know what they are. We don't know how they begin. Yeah, we just don't know. That's the real problem. Everything we have is subjective. Every observation we've ever had of Bigfoot is entirely subjective. There's no objective review of any of it. And we don't know how to. We can't even get a solid photograph. I mean, half the time I'm like, I want text to go on with pictures of bushes and pictures of animals. It's like, one of these things is not like the other. Unless it looks like this, it's not an actual photograph of a Bigfoot. This is a bush, right? It's like pictures of bushes is not doing anybody any good. We don't even know what these things are. I mean, fundamentally, are they human? Are they ape? Are they hyper evolved Tasmanian devils? I mean, are they physical, non-physical? Right now I could make the claim every Bigfoot, again, I'm a generalist, but like every cryptozoological animal is all paranormal. Prove me wrong. You'd have zero proof that any of these creatures are real, tangible, physical, natural beings. Now, I'm not saying that that's not my claim. I think there are tangible. I just think there's other paranormal phenomena that's either deliberately masquerading as Bigfoot and perhaps other cryptids, or we are simply misinterpreting them as Bigfoot or other cryptozoological creatures. But the point, my point is, we don't have, like, I can't make the claim a gorilla or gorillas are supernatural beings, because we know we can. It's like, no, they're gorillas. There's a bunch right over here. We have their DNA. We watch them. They poop. They eat.
Yeah. Hang on a minute, though. I mean, you say, these things could all be different, but they're all acting in the same way, especially with intelligence.
Well, we think they are.
Well, a lot of the claims, there seems to be some form of intelligence. It just feels like, I don't know.
Well, so let's go back to the deer metaphor, right? I mean, deer are deer, but they have different minor behaviors, but they're still going to behave like a deer. Like, they're not going to be running around picking up people's kids and eating them. Like, it's a deer, right? So, and again, it doesn't. I'm not saying that we're not seeing similar patterns, but again, it goes back to we don't know, so we can't say for certain that they're all. We may break them up into different subspecies. They may have different. There may be differences. Again, if they're migratory, we don't know how migratory they are. What if the reasons for some similarities is because the migratory ones are showing up in different spots and they're behaving the way they always have? Again, I'm not saying that they aren't all the same thing. I'm just saying we can't say that for certain.
No.
Right. And again, the most logical explanation is that they are the same species, but maybe we have regional variants, right? Like the ones here in the South or in Texas are probably a lot leaner than what we're seeing in the Pacific Northwest. Hair's a little bit thinner. It's a lot hotter down here. That's not anything new or different. They'd still be the same kind. They'd probably behave in the same way. But what I'm saying is we shouldn't assume that everything that we're seeing is all the same. We have to do better, objective observations. But that's the problem, is we don't have any objective observations of any of it, so we just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I mean, to me, it's strange, and I'm not knocking it. Don't get me wrong, but that they may be, for me, they're all connected. Like, I know Gene Hudson knows about Dogman.
Yeah.
And possibly she will say to me, they're nothing like Bigfoot. So now, I mean, what do you think, Gene? You can tell me, but I've got a feeling she's going to say they're not like Bigfoot at all. So that means there's two creatures out there that we don't know about, that are elusive,
Yeah.
So it's all right having a Bigfoot. Now we've got a Dogman. How many more creatures can be out there that we're not aware of? That all fall under that same umbrella. Do you know where I'm going with this? It's like,
right. No, exactly. It's like
there's a set of creatures out there that we don't have access to.
Well, it's like my pterosaur. Like, I mean, I didn't believe that I'd saw that even after I met Ken Gerhard and I read all of his books. I'm like, but that's all Southern Texas stuff, not North Texas. And they're bigger. This was small. Like, it's like I had all these things in my head until I found out that other people were seeing them, and they were seeing the same way. It was the same S curve. It's like, and everyone says the same story. I thought it was a crane, or I thought it was a pelican, and then I saw it, and I looked at it more closely and realized that's not what I was seeing. Broad daylight sightings, that kind of stuff. It's like, this goes back to, again, my book is full. I mean, again, my book is full of what are clearly paranormal entities, right? But then there's a couple physical ones where you're like, what the heck is that? The Texas or the Trinity Titan, that's what I dubbed it, is my favorite one. Is kind of my favorite one because the dude's just fishing, right? He's fishing in this thing, this giant long face just of what could be some type of mosasaur. That's sort of my theory as to what it is, but it could be, dinosaur, dragon, whatever term you want to call it. Just looks at him, just comes up out of the water, looks at him, he looks at it. It's massive, and it just goes back in the water and disappears. It's like, what do you do with that? How, that's a thing that occurs. It freaked him out. He stopped fishing there, even though he knew it had probably swam off or did whatever. It freaked him out. Like, these things, people talk about these stories all the time. Mokelium Bembe, all kinds of different water and sea creatures. Again, we have people talking about living dinosaurs here in Texas, not just the pterosaurs, but they've called it the T-Rex. It looked like a little small T-Rex running around, bipedal theropod. And there have been people who've talked about those in the Texas Southwest. So I don't know what to make of any of that, right? I mean, that's beyond saying this. This is kind of what you would expect. This is my big thing, and I will say it till the day I die. If you just take the Bible seriously, these kinds of things are expected to be seen. You would expect creatures to have survived the flood that we would not have expected them to have. This is why you get stories of dinosaurs and stories of these other creatures, is that's all they are. They're on this side of the flood. But the real question becomes, then how do they stay so hidden from us modern people? that's where I think the monkey wrench goes in. Monkey wrench, Bigfoot, okay. Unintentional pun, but that's where it gets thrown. It's like, how are these things staying away from us for so long and hidden so well? And I think that's why a lot of people instantly jump to conspiracy theories, right? So, well, someone's got to be preventing this from happening. I mean, I'm the first one to say, I think public pressure or herd animals, there's enough public pressure to not talk about this stuff, right? To keep some of it hidden and to keep it mostly hidden. But still, we've got to ask, why don't we have more on, say, Bigfoot or Dogman or the pterosaurs? Why don't we have more information on this? Now, we have a lot of information from the deep past, right? Mythology, folklore, these creatures do seem to pop up all the time. But from a modern perspective, why can't we observe them? Why isn't there a Jane Goodall for the living pterosaurs or Bigfoot?
Yeah, I know what you mean. This here is a great comment, actually, from Texas Jack.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how you say that. Rorschach? A Rorschach? Rorschach. How someone perceives an encounter almost always says more about themselves than the Bigfoot itself. We do have a very one-sided view of this creature. I mean, completely. Just our perceptions.
Yeah.
I guess,
Well, it goes back to the whole thing of we just don't have any objective. Like, again, when we're out there monitoring deer or whatever, right? We do it from afar. We do it objectively. We've recorded them. We can track them. We can watch them, and we can figure them out. We're still learning new things all the time, even about deer. In fact, like, we still don't even know where eels come from. That's a whole other conversation to have at a later date, or maybe later on the show. But like, we don't even know where eels come from, but we know certain things, but we can observe them objectively. The problem with Bigfoot or any of these things is we can't control the encounter. It's always random. It's always by surprise with them. So we don't have any. So the problem is you have a human being who's not expecting to run across them. They're not necessarily trained and prepared to record the encounter or anything like that. And it's very, very short. And you've got fight or flight instincts going. You got adrenaline going. A lot of people who have their encounter they don't even have a paradigm for Bigfoot half the time. So, yeah, I mean, it's a Rorschach test, because just like anything would, right? Like, if you were walking across, in Britain, and all of a sudden a tiger shows up, there'd be 1,000 things running around your head, fight or flight, right? You wouldn't know. The story you would tell us would be entirely laden with fear, surprise, anxiety. It wouldn't be a true observation of the tiger. Well, that's the same. I mean, for all the obvious reasons, until we can find some way to really objectively monitor these creatures and see what they are, we're never going to have anything but ink blot tests, but entirely subjective data. I mean, all the data we have, in fact, this goes back to my point. All of our data is subjective. We don't even know if it was a Bigfoot people were encountering. I mean, look at the arguments we have. Bigfoot and Dogman, or some people will say they're the same thing. That's just some people are seeing them differently. We can't even make that argument right now. We have no definitive way of saying that that's right or wrong. We don't even know because we have no objective data on what Bigfoot actually is. So we don't know what it isn't.
Good point here, Leanne Kennedy. Agree, Daniel. I think it's because it's such a shock to see such a large and unusually built that it's difficult to think of anything due to the shock. I mean, it is that, isn't it? You're just remembering the bits.
Yeah.
You can remember or want to remember. What was another good point? What's crazy is Bigfoot trigger the same response in a body. You feel them somehow. Well, that energy, You know, we do feel energy. That was the one I wanted, Steve W. Ghosts come from
Yeah.
some place. We catch glimpses and can feel them around us easier. But that is, you know, everything gives off energy, doesn't it? I mean,
Theoretically, yes.
if we're saying ghosts, spirits are energy, then I don't know, people seem to think that they feed off us when it comes to ghosts and spirits. Or we
Yeah.
can be the kind of conduit, maybe, or something like that.
Or trauma, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this goes back to the whole question, like with even things that are paranormal. Like I'm much more concerned with the material creatures, because the paranormal, we have no way of objectively, like, we can't even really reliably take photographs of the paranormal, right? It seems like it's entirely on them, and so on those entities. So it's like we don't even know what is or is not. In fact, here's one more problem: pareidolia. When people are looking at Sasquatch, look at the different descriptions that we get. Some look very pungent, some look very human. We don't even really know if we're getting accurate descriptions of what the creatures really look like. Because if you don't know what you're looking at, your brain messes with it. I mean, that's just the truth. Like, that's why you can have someone can show you a photograph and you're like, I don't know what I'm looking at. It's a cow, and you see the cow, right? That was one of those optical illusions. That was my wife was going through she tutors and she teaches, and so that's one of the things. She specializes with kids with certain disabilities, and so that's one of the things they were showing us was, hey, for us, we look at when you look at math, you're like, well, this makes sense. Why isn't it making sense for the kids? Like, well, here's this photograph, and I'm an artist. I should be able to see this thing, and it's like, until someone tells you it's a cow, because of the way it's cropped, the way you're like, I don't know what I'm looking at. So if you don't know what a Bigfoot is, we don't necessarily know what it looks like, and you've got shock, you've got adrenaline, your brain is not necessarily focusing on the small details. So again, I go back to, we don't even really know what they really look like. We have what people have described them as looking like. Well, that's entirely subjective, and people may be making them more human because all they know is, I'm registering eyes, a nose, and a mouth on a face. But their brain isn't actually processing it properly.
It's an optical illusion, in a sense, trying to work it out. And yes, vibration as well, Frankie. We feel things, don't we? Feel people looking at us, or you can sense when there's somebody in your house, I guess. I think I'd know if someone was hiding in my house.
Well, it's a real phenomenon, the psychic stare. The idea that someone is watching you from a distance, people feel that. Like, the CIA absolutely trains them. Like, they tell them, trust that feeling. That feeling is right. People do feel that, and it's weird, but it's true. And again, let's go back to the questions again. I'm assuming that there's a physical Bigfoot. I think there's paranormal stuff, but what if all of it's paranormal? What if every cryptid is paranormal? It's like, well, great, congratulations. We've literally just said there's, on some fundamental level, no way to really actually know these things because we don't have the ability to monitor that. Like, it goes back to, all we have are questions, and what we need to do is really start disentangling our preconceived notions as to what these creatures are, how they operate, where they operate, and start taking fresher looks at all of it. What if one of the reasons we can't find them is because we have preconceived notions about what they are, and so our preconceptions are interfering with our ability to actually really observe them.
We've kind of conditioned ourselves, haven't we, in a way? Maybe just because of life and the way it is. Just noticed this, Mike Kirkpatrick. I saw a man dressed in a zoot suit from the 40s twice. Something happened to me when I was a taxi driver. I picked up a guy from the train station, and he wanted to go to a cemetery a few miles up the road. And he had a long black coat on, and he almost like it was like a top hat, black top hat. Not a top hat, but that's a kind of style.
Right. It was sort of brimmed, and then had a
brim and some top. Sort of, and he was giving me some really good advice about life on the way to this cemetery. Really like the rules of life and things. I can't remember the detail. I can remember some, but It was like how to save money and fix costs, and it all made sense at the time because I just bought my house as well.
Mm-hmm.
And everything he was saying was like really, really interesting. And he had this, it was a box, like a cake box. But when you opened it, he had the flowers. And they must have all been hand-picked. And there was just a different array of flowers. And that was on like the passenger seat. He put that on the passenger seat and he sat in the back seat. And when he got out to pay me, he opened the passenger door, he paid me, and he took these boxes of flowers. He opened it so I could see them. They were just like the most beautiful wild flowers. And it was a long drive, really long drive up to this cemetery. As you get in the cemetery, then it's a really long drive up to like a roundabout in the middle where I turned round and left. And as I look back in my wing mirror, I couldn't see him anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like completely flat land. He was only like a minute, less than a minute for him to get out, pay me, for me to turn around. And I couldn't see it. And I had just had the weirdest feeling that wasn't a real person. That was a ghost or something.
Or something.
Strange.
Wait, did the money stay though? Did you still have the money?
Still have the money. Yeah, well, that's the other thing, isn't it? Did have the money, but where did he go? I mean, there was just nowhere he could. I looked and looked, and I looked in my wing mirror. I was like, that is weird. That was weird.
I have a story that I believe it was straight up an angel, and I didn't realize it at the time because of something very similar. Like he helped me push my car, and where I know he had to have stopped pushing, I put the car, put it into park, turn around, dude's gone. The car that he had gotten out of was gone. Like, it's like there's no way he could have, from where we pushed the car, where he could have disappeared that fast. An Olympic sprinter couldn't have gotten back to his car and driven off that speed. I've got a bunch of stories of stuff like that. But that's the thing is, your story is also, I've got one where it's something that it didn't seem like an angel, but it seemed like something else entirely. So I don't know.
You don't know, do you? Jean said, I would have wondered how that guy get back from the cemetery if you just left him. Maybe he'll just fly back.
Yeah. Or maybe you just took him home.
Teleport himself. Maybe that was his journey. Maybe that's where he needed to go. And he was going to his sister's grave. I remember that. But yeah, every time I drive past there, I think of that guy. So who knows? Who knows? Most Bigfoot resemble cedar trees and stumps. Yeah, they're good at mimicking, apparently, aren't they?
Well, again, apparently, according to some. And so, but here's the thing: like, that's your story reminds me of another story. Who was it? You know what? Never mind. It's kind of a similar story, but it was basically who was it? It was Mick Jagger. That's who it was. As a kid, and they were all hanging out. And he talks about how one time they flat out said this dude in a fur coat, seemingly just out of time, walks in. They all thought it was by the time they got done with the whole situation, they thought it was Satan or a devil shows up and starts talking to him. It's a weird story, but stories like that happen all the time. See, this is the other weird thing, right? So many people have encounters like that. That really, at this point, the assumption should be that these beings fully exist. That should be our operating procedure. That there are, supernatural beings. I've got a police friend of mine who he doesn't like any of this conversation, but he'll be the first one to tell you. He's like, but I did see this one thing that happened this one time. Long story short, there was a house that they would drive by because it had been abandoned for years, and people would go and smoke crack and do what they do, right? So they just make certain no one was hanging around doing things. Well, one of the front rooms, because the house was one of the old pier and beams, so it's like 10 feet off the floor, really. But the entire flooring had crashed through. Well, he pulls up on it one night. It's late December, early January. So we're talking sub-freezing temperatures. It's 2:00 at night. Drives up on the house, and there's a dude in the room where the floor has completely collapsed, and he's just standing. What looks like he's in the room because the mirrors or the windows are busted out, looking at him, and he's wearing nothing but overalls. Obviously, you can't see anything below like the waist, but he's just wearing overalls, no shirt. He said he saw that, he popped his car into reverse and floored out of there and called for backup because he's like, I don't know how he's like, I don't know what that was, where he was, how he was, if that was a real person or not. He goes, but all I know is he shouldn't have been able to stand there, and it was sub-freezing temperatures, and he was only wearing overalls. He's like, my money is on that not being a person. So, I mean, again, how many people have stories? I mean, so many people have stories like that, like yours, where there is because he didn't say it was, I saw a disembodied spirit, or it was, there was a person standing on a floor that he couldn't have possibly been standing on. And it was just, the dude was there. It's like, it's somehow physical and yet not. Right? So, I don't know. I mean, that's the weirdness of our world. Again, nobody knows where eels come from. If we can't even explain that, how are we supposed to explain all the weirder stuff? You're on mute.
Oh dear. I don't know why I keep doing that. Don't they come from mummy and daddy eels?
Well, so that's the assumption.
Okay.
But let me give you the quick rundown, because I found this out when I was researching the book because of the eel, supposed giant eel that lives in one of the lakes around here. But I saw another friend of mine sent this to me the other day, which is why it occurs to me. So eels are freshwater, right? But they procreate in the ocean, which is reversed from what like freshwater animals stay in the freshwater. There are ocean-going animals that will go into freshwater to breed, but then they go back to the ocean, and usually they die. But these are freshwater. They go to the Sargasso Sea, which is literally the Bermuda Triangle. We have never observed, either in captivity or in the wild, eels breeding. All we know is that these adult eels leave the freshwater, go into saltwater. Whether they're from Europe or America, they swim to the Sargasso Sea, to the Bermuda Triangle, and out come little tiny baby eels, and they swim. Yeah, and then they swim and they're translucent, and then they swim into freshwater, and then they go and they live their lives, and then they go. That's all we know. We've never seen freshwater eels. We're assuming. Now, I've heard some other wild stuff I've not been able to confirm, so I don't want to say it, but I'll say it only to say I haven't confirmed this part, that we haven't found proper sex organs in eels. I don't know that I believe that one. I'm just saying I do know. All we know is they swim to the Sargasso Sea, which is in around the Bermuda Triangle, and then we get little baby eels. That's all we know. Right. I've heard people say that we don't know about their sex organs and things like that. I find that hard to believe, but okay, maybe that's true. I just haven't had a chance to look into that. All I know is we don't know where they come from. It's never been observed.
Does everything need a sex organ? Isn't there something? Aren't there any animals or insects that can just lay eggs without needing to do anything?
Asexual reproduction is usually in lower non-vertebrate life forms.
Right.
So by the time you hit vertebrates, it's too complex. You do need two sexes. Now there are certain fish and reptiles that can change their sex. Okay. That's not uncommon. It's been observed in Finding Nemo would have gone very differently if they had done it scientifically, because like the clownfish, if you just have a bunch of male clownfish, for whatever reason, one or two of them will switch to female. Like they can do that. They have that ability to do that. So like I said, Finding Nemo would have been a very different movie had they paid attention to that little detail. But yeah, it's like, so, but the point here is the higher vertebrates do seem to need sexual reproduction one way or the other. So again, I'll look into the claim on the eels for the next one, as far as I gotta believe that we know that what a female versus male eel is.
Snakes can lay eggs without being with another snake?
Well, they can lay eggs, but that doesn't mean that they're fertilized. Now, I do know that there are certain species that can hold off on fertilization, like they can do their snaky business or some other, but it can take years before they actually lay eggs.
Okay. And Jane Huston said Komodo dragon in a zoo had babies and they were just her babies, not the males she was with. DNA proved it.
But those are, again, off. They're one of a million chances. That's not how the entire species is procreating.
Mm.
And again, there are instances where they are holding on to some of this DNA or some of these other things for years. So again, there are, frogs. These are
sisters are doing it for themselves now. That's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just
exactly. Well, like last 2 weeks ago, there was a shark that was born in a shark tank with only female sharks. So again, fish, reptiles. These are, again, I don't know about the eels. I'm going to research that one.
Yeah.
But there does. But here's my point. There still has to be sexual organs in a Komodo dragon. Like, we know that they have sexual organs. We know that these things exist. And usually there's a backup for small, again, there does seem to be, particularly in fish and things like that, backups if they're, which is why it happens in zoos, where it's like there's only females in a tank. Well, one will do something so they can procreate to have that happen. But those are usually getting lower life form, or, frogs, fish. Fish have been known to change sexes all the time. Again, the thing about eels are we don't know we've never seen it happen. The entire point for sexual reproduction is the continuance of DNA, but it has to be able to mutate and change. Otherwise, it becomes stale and inbred, and then you get fish that don't know how to swim. Like, those populations exist, but they can't stay that way, right? There has to be genetic variants, or they will destroy themselves. So, but the whole point about the eels are, again, we can't even tell you how eels procreate, much less, how are we supposed to know about some of these other things that are trying to hide from us? Who knows? Maybe eels are slipping into some alternate dimension, and they're, exploding into other eels, like some sort of weird mitosis. Who knows?
Something's going on.
I don't mean that seriously, folks. I'm just saying it's a joke, but
I'm fascinated.
But we don't know. I'll look it up. I will look into the eel thing for you. Yeah. Let's have next conversation. We're talking about eels, ladies and gentlemen.
That's what I want to.
Eels.
Yeah.
Everything you ever want to know about eels.
Fantastic. Well, I love the fact that we started off with Rhubarb Crumble, and now we're talking about eels' sexual organs. That's how it goes, and anything goes.
Yeah.
We will talk about just about anything. But yeah, I'm going to look into that, because I don't think you need the bits and bobs to do the do for the eels.
Well, we may not need the bits and the bobs, but there's got to be something. Like, they're not just transforming themselves into little baby eels, right? Something's happening.
Yeah, well, wasn't someone just caught a load of eels and studied them?
We have, but we've never seen them procreate. That's the problem.
Well, they're not watching them all the time, are they?
Well, I would imagine it's what they're doing in a zoo. Look, someone out there has a degree in eels.
24/7. We need an eel breeder.
Let's find them.
Get in touch, DanielaHiddenExistence.com, if you know anything about eels, you're an eel breeder, or you've given birth to help an eel give birth to baby eels.
Eel midwives, that's what we need.
Eel midwives, that's what we need. Yeah.
Yes, if you practice eel midwifery, you let us know.
Yes, that's what we want. We want some specialists on. So thanks, Jason. It's been fascinating as usual.
My pleasure as always, Daniela.
Yeah, we'll come and do it again next week with more information about it'll be a good show next week, definitely. Thanks to everyone in the chat. I'm sorry if I've missed any of your comments, but I do appreciate them all. And to all my new subscribers, I've had a little surge in subscribers, and I find that fascinating how that happens. But I do appreciate you all being here and clicking the subscribe button. Don't forget to click the like button as well. That'll just help my channel and the algorithms and all that. Doobie-doo. You're on with text tomorrow, Trinity.
Actually, I'm taking tomorrow off to recuperate and work on some things I have to get done. So sadly, I will be away.
All right, but they'll find you on your Not Another Bible Study.
Oh, always, yes.
Yeah.
And so again, SierraPapers.com. You can go. You can find all my links to all my fun things.
That's great. The link will be in the description. So yeah, thank you everyone. And I love everyone who comes and watches this. I'm glad it's your favourite. We'll be back next week. They'll be drawing Bigfoot on Tuesday on Bigfoot Odyssey. Come and watch it because it's going to be amazing. I'm not going to say anything else, but it's going to be a really good one. But until then, everyone, have a great week and see you all soon. Bye.